Buenas and hafa day, everyone. Naan husi Gabriela Ines Delisle Diaz. I'm currently studying at the University of Guam. And this week has been a very busy week for me. Not only am I sick and I'm a little congested at the moment, but I'm doing a lot better. I'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges I've been facing this week. Being sick and just normal college, I guess, issues when you're sick and you have so much work to do. But I also, like most of the people here on Guam, had to help prepare for Typhoon Hagibis, which passed over on Monday night. And I'll talk a little bit about that in this week's video. But I guess I want to give a little bit of advice for students who are traveling abroad, or for students who are thinking about going abroad. And I'd like to give this advice by giving some personal stories and just, I guess, elaborating on what a busy week I've had so far. So Typhoon Hagibis was a tropical storm that actually turned into a super typhoon as it approached Guam and as it approached the Mariana Islands. And so I remember going into class on Monday, and we started class and we went in knowing that there was a storm watch, not knowing that it was going to transform into a super typhoon by the time we were on campus. But everyone was advised to fill up their car and prepare in the case of the typhoon landing or the typhoon hitting. And I've never experienced this before. And so it was really scary. It was my first time learning the ropes and the protocols of preparing for a typhoon. So I got up extra early before class, and despite some of the obligations that I needed to take care of for class, I went to go gas up my car early. And because everyone else on the island was doing just that, even though we have so many gas stations here, it took me a good 40 minutes just to get to campus, when it'd take me normally a good maybe 10 to 15 minutes from where I'm staying right now. So, when you're going somewhere and it comes with its own environmental conditions, it's always good to be prepared and be aware and have a plan as to how to navigate around those and how to prepare in the case of an emergency like that. So I guess some advice would be, know the weather of where you're going and the hazards of where you're going. It sounds really self-explanatory, but something that I think a lot of people don't realize is that not only did we have to deal with this super typhoon passing over us in the middle of the night, and that includes closing your typhoon shutters. That's something that a lot of houses have here. And establishing shelters for people who don't have typhoon shelters or may not even have a home that's suitable for withstanding some of the conditions when you're living in the tropics. So on top of the typhoon, and on top of midterms, and on top of the dengue outbreak, on top of all the errands I normally run here, I also got slammed with some kind of sickness, whatever I have, kind of out of nowhere. And I know myself enough to know when the onset of something is coming, but this one, I kind of just woke up one day and I was feeling great, and in the middle of the day, my body shut down. And as much as I hate to admit it, I think it's definitely a result of privileging my schoolwork above my health, which is something you absolutely can't do in general. You can never put yourself through that. But, especially if you're traveling abroad, and I guess this is some advice for people who are thinking about going abroad or who are studying abroad and, living off their home campus somewhere they're used to, you absolutely cannot put yourself through that, because you're already dealing with so much and you have to cut yourself some slack sometimes. And this is something I'm still learning how to do on my own home campus. As a perfectionist, and I'd say as a really hardworking student, it gets really hard to submit papers and submit assignments when I'm not feeling 500% well about them. But, at the end of the day, when you're sick, there's only so much you can do when it comes to schoolwork. So, I guess maybe this would be a little bit of personal growth and some experience that I've been having here, is that this past week especially, I've been, exercising a lot more restraint and a lot better judgment than I normally would, in really just taking it easy and, putting off a little bit of my work, sacrificing a little bit of my work. There's been a lot of outcome, and there's been a lot of good that's come out of really taking it easy this week. cutting myself some slack and really focusing on healing and recovering a little bit, up to some extent at the expense of some of my schoolwork and some of the things I need to get done. That being, I was thinking about it a lot. This past week, some of the work, whatever work I could have been doing, just enjoying myself. Maybe I'm driving around the island, or I'm going to one of my favorite places to get soup, which I did today, for example. Just getting out of the house, getting out of wherever you're living, and even if you're sick, you're spending all this money to attend school somewhere. And so, you gotta kind of make the most out of it as much as you can. So, I guess in the same way that you want to make the most out of your time, at your host campus or wherever you're living and you're studying abroad, when you want to make the most of that, and at the same time you want to make the most of being sick too and really get something out of it as much as you can. If you're feeling like you're just at home and you need to get out of the house, you can always do something different. I'm sick and, I've been at home resting, but I've also taken a lot more time that, ideally would be going to schoolwork, but, I'm driving around the island and I'm running errands and I'm taking it all in as much as I can, because I know that before I know it, I'm going to be heading back to my home campus. I'm going to be heading back to Minneapolis. And so I want to take this in as much as I can. And even though it would be nice to do that when I'm not sick, when you're sick, you do have that time to do that, and you do have that time to yourself. But just as importantly, you got to make time to do that. And I know whenever I take off and I go somewhere that, that all of that time I could be going to, that could be going to schoolwork or midterm prep. And, at some point, I'm doing all that work. But again, like I said, at some point you do need to just step back and enjoy where you're living at. If you're somewhere you've never been before, maybe you've never been out of the United States, maybe you've never been out of your home country or your home nation, it's exciting. And, when you're dropping all that money, like I said, you not only come to, get work done and go to school, but, you got to enjoy yourself a little bit, because, before you know it, it's already week 8 of the semester. And I'm currently on, we're finishing off our week, our 8th week here. And it's, there's not enough time. And at first, of course, it was going really slow, and, it was long, and I had a lot of time to enjoy my days here. And, now the days are going by ridiculously fast. Before I start coughing again, and I guess with some of that advice that I give, I want to say Sizuos Masi all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.